Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When it comes to home and auto insurance, it's important to have the right coverage from a company and an agent you can trust. Someone who will help you properly protect the people and things you love most. So if the unexpected happens, you and your family can rest insured. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going well. It is nearly a new year here on Earth, I guess. I was going to say here in Kentucky.
and the rest of the world.
It's everywhere. So yeah, been a good year, another solid year at Kentucky Farm Bureau. And so I was going to ask if you have any neat plans for New Year's.
We are literally the worst. We have none. Here's why, though. I feel like it needs explanation. So my family is all from Louisiana, my extended family. My parents are transplants up to Princeton. So we used to go to Louisiana between Christmas and New Year's every single year, like my entire life. Like the greatest moment of your life was packing a pair of shorts to wear in Louisiana in December while it was snowing in Kentucky. So we would either be driving back during New Year's or we would be like having a big slumber party with my cousins. So we never did like all the fun traditional things. Like we were lucky to see a ball drop, and we always did it on Central Time because my parents got to kick us to bed earlier. You know?
Yeah, my family, my dad used to get a shotgun out and shoot it, and we'd hit pots and pans as kids, you know.
Stop it, you're lying.
Oh yeah, and just be loud as we can. But we kind of live in the middle of nowhere. He could do that. Yes, I know I'm a city boy, but
I love all of this.
We lived on 5 acres in J-Town, so and right next to a horse farm.
That's
actually
the middle of nowhere.
Well, for J-Town, that's quite a find, actually. So yeah, he'd go out and shoot it, and we'd make a bunch of noise with everything. But as adults, with our kids, we usually just stayed up with them and watched, Dick Clark and now Ryan Seacrest.
Yeah, we really went downhill. I liked Dick Clark.
Yeah, Dick Clark was great.
He was more fun.
But we watched that, and recently watched a lot of college football. There's usually some kind of college football game on. That's
actually the day plan. Like if we're gonna be honest about what we're doing, all I'm focused on is bowl games and playoffs. Whatever we've got going right there, that's what we're watching.
Yeah, January 1st is a great day. We get up when we get up, and we watch whatever parade, wherever it's at in the parade. We never see the beginning of it, and then we just I just do nothing all day. Usually get the wood pellet grill out and smoke something on January 1st.
I'm so happy you got to get in the fact that you do in fact own a wood pellet grill.
Oh, I love my wood pellet grill. So we'll wood pellet grill something. I don't know. Some kind of smoked meat will be done. And then, I watch college football. Now it's like all kinds of stuff, with the playoffs. So not sure how that's all going to iron out. But, it's just a good day. The actual day itself is a day of nothing.
And it's like middle of the week this year, so it's kind of a fun one. Like we got a lot of people taking a day off here or there around it, so it's kind of, you get a short week after, just kind of reset. Are you a New Year's resolution guy?
Yeah, and they stick for about a month.
Yep.
Like I think I go longer than most people. Like I beat the average Joe on keeping actual resolution, but it's usually my joke with my video team is be less of a horrible person this year. That's all I tell them. That's my resolution. They're like, well, you didn't do it last year. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry.
Try again.
I'll try again this year. This will be the year. But yeah, I usually try to do one, and it does okay. It usually fails at some point.
Yeah, I always tell my husband, I do better for like Lent going into Easter. Like maybe when God is involved, I put a little more effort into it. But it's the same thing. Like I get through those 40 days and I crank out. Like it's terrible.
Well, it's 40 days or changing your life. There's two different things. Like
you can
stop doing something for 40 days, right?
Yeah.
Or be better at something for 40 days and then just go back to being horrible.
Yeah, that's true. That's
essentially what I'm doing at New Year's.
You just do yours early ahead of Easter.
I go about 40 days and then I'm back to being a horrible person. Yeah. So,
no, it's awesome. But it's nice. I don't know. The holidays, December is just, we crank out in January with commodity meetings and things. And I know you guys do too. We have so many events coming up in February and everything. So I think December is just like this ultimate reset where like I get to feed my own calves in the daylight. We just trudge through snow. We do what we got to do. Reset, get some sleep, clean your house, and then don't see it again for about a month. So,
Well, for us, I mean, we have a lot of things after annual meeting, but that's Saturday when that last video plays and it plays okay. We're kind of on cruise control for a few weeks, just to kind of resetting, and that's kind of the work reset. And it really does it for me at work. It's kind of like, okay, now I can think about Christmas and these kinds of things now.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say that looking at going into the new year, what a fun refresh that is talking to Adam today about commodity conference, which is what a lot of our listeners, because I'm sure every listener knows exactly every commodity conference going on in the spring. A lot of ours are going to be ones that are headed to Bowling Green to the one he's talking about in this podcast. So that'll be pretty cool. Yeah,
this is another great leader. You know, one of these people, we've talked to so many great people on this podcast. He's a great guy. He works hard for his commodity, but also his family farm. And I think our listeners are really going to like him, going to learn a lot, and get to know another leader of another organization that we're really friends with, and just a good dude.
Yeah, so enjoy listening to Adam Hendricks, and you guys will enjoy this one. Without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
And this is Between the Rows. All right. Well, hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going well. We have an amazing guest on the phone with us today. Adam, thank you for being here today. We appreciate you being on Between the Rows.
Sure. Appreciate you having me. Sorry that I couldn't be there in person, but glad to be here on the phone.
Oh, it's totally okay. We have a cool studio that has all kinds of flexibility. We can do all kinds of things. So.
Yeah. And in your defense, you were here to be on the podcast, and we had a power outage, and so you did your part, but then we had to reschedule. So.
Yeah, that was quite a day here at the office, and you got to be a part of that with all of us here at Farm Bureau. The power went out for most of the day, and there was a meeting. What was the meeting that was going on?
All the commodity executive directors and presidents, which Adam is one of. We're meeting with legislators upstairs while the power went out. We kind of thought somebody might have heard us saying things about politics and just shut us down.
Yeah, it was also it was the Thanksgiving luncheon. So I think Adam you got to have some of that Thanksgiving luncheon, correct?
Yeah, I got the candlelight dinner there, so it was good.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? We have both met you, of course, but tell the listeners kind of where you're at and what you're farming and kind of what you guys got going on over there.
Yeah, so I live in Logan County, just outside of Russellville, kind of in the southern part of the county. I farm with my cousin Harry and my brother Jason, and we're just a row crop operation, so corn, wheat, and double crop beans. And yeah, that's pretty much us.
So a family affair, is this a generational thing? Do you have a father that did it? How did you get into farming?
It is. I think I'm like the 7th generation farmer in my family. So yeah, my dad and my uncle farmed together for a long time, and then when they decided to retire, the three of us took over the operation from them.
Very cool.
So you say it's so simple, like it's just a few crops, just some row crop farming, but I get to see you in a lot of different facets doing different things with whether it's the specialist or with the Soybean Association. So tell us a little bit more. I know you guys have done some crops where you've been able to pull in some different times of the year and helped with some different environmental practices. Kind of talk to us about how you incorporated some of those new pieces in.
Well, in our part of the world, wheat in the rotation works really good. I know that's not necessarily common throughout the state, but just we're on some well-drained ground, so we're able to incorporate wheat. It works really well for us. So we plant corn, harvest in the fall, then we plant wheat behind that, and then we're able to harvest that in early summer and run double crop beans. So that gives us 3 opportunities for income throughout the year, 3 crops in 2 years, and it works out well for us and kind of spreads our risk out a little bit. So I think on our rolling ground, it kind of helps hold our ground. We've got a crop growing most of the month throughout that 2-year span. And so I think it just kind of works well for us and the area that we live in.
So for people that don't know wheat, I've always thought this is interesting. So I used to sell in a previous life, sold cottonseed down in Mississippi. My big joke was, as the seed rep, they all went to the duck blind and I went home for Christmas because they were done. The ground was bare and they were moving right along. But with wheat, you've really got a crop throughout the winter. So that thought process of the crop guys got nothing going on in those winter months isn't really true for you guys. Kind of what does that entail? You're planting it behind those beans, of course, but what does it entail throughout the rest of those times where people maybe don't expect you guys to be out farming?
Yeah, so once we harvest corn in the fall, we immediately turn around and try to clean up any weeds that are there. And then so that, harvest is usually late August, September. And then in that October time frame, we're ramping back up again. Harry sows all of our wheat. We're trying to get the ground sprayed, cleaned up, fertilizer spread, lime spread. So there's a flurry of activity that happens in that September, October time frame. And then we had to do some spraying this fall. So some of that, in November. So everybody kind of thinks once you get corn out, you're done, beans out, you're done. We're kind of just getting started on next year's crop. So throughout the winter, we're putting on nitrogen in late winter. And so there's just some different time frames that we're doing some things that other, corn and bean farmers aren't usually in the field at that time. So
are there other benefits to this? Is there some conservation benefit to what you're doing?
There are, like I said earlier, I think we have some rolling ground, moderately rolling ground, depending on where you're at. I've got a buddy that calls me a flatlander, so I guess it's all relative, I suppose. But we've got some roll to our ground, so I think the wheat there throughout the winter, not leaving that ground bare, helps us. There's a lot of buzz around cover crops. We jokingly call it a cover crop at times. I mean, it does take place of a cover crop, but it's one that we can actually harvest and make money on. So I think that really helps in our neck of the woods to kind of hold the ground and give us something growing that, more times throughout the year.
Yeah, for sure. So there's 3 of you farming together, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so are you guys mostly in Logan County, or do you guys spread out to other counties as well?
We've got one farm there in Simpson County, but mostly concentrated in Logan County.
Gotcha. Well, that has to help for sure. So when it comes to having multiple families in the mix and things like that, how does that help when it comes to farming with family? And, you guys have kids, and I'm sure they have. How does that work? Is it helpful, I guess, getting around to different parts and harvesting different things at different times with your family there with you?
It does, and fortunately, we kind of all have an area of expertise that doesn't really overlap with the other. My cousin was interested in taxes and accounting, and so he actually went to school for that and kind of focused on that area. My brother was not interested in going to school, and he's very mechanically inclined, so he's able to kind of carry that part of the business. I was interested in the agronomic side of it, so I was able to get a degree in agronomy or ag business and kind of focus on the agronomic side and hit it from that angle. So we've kind of got different areas of expertise that we bring to the table, and it seems to be a pretty good mix for us anyway. So
you couldn't plan that better if you tried.
Yeah.
I know it.
Just happy to be related to these guys. Yep.
That's right. It worked out well, and like I said, we were able to learn from our dads and pick up what they've learned along the way, and my dad's still able to be involved in the farm. He harvests the wheat for us and helps out more than he probably wants to at times. So it works out good to have everybody involved. So.
Yeah, speak about that dynamic, that passing on the farm and so much family being involved through the years, all those generations. Has it been difficult to kind of that farm transition through the years, the passing on of the land, of just the business in general? Has that been difficult for your all's family? And if so, tell us why or why not.
I mean, it's been a really good thing, just from the knowledge aspect. I mean, I've got a lot of family that's involved. My dad and uncle farmed together. I've also had 2 other uncles that farmed together for a while. And so there's a lot of knowledge there that you can gain, that you can access by just asking questions, having them available to you. They've been on this farm. They've done things in the past. They've made mistakes. I can hopefully learn from their mistakes. So there's a lot of knowledge that's passed there. As far as land and some of that kind of stuff, we fight the same challenges that everybody else fights with outside, pressure of prices, land prices, rental agreements, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's always kind of a tough dynamic to manage, but it seems to have worked well for our family, passing along. And so there's always challenges, but we've been able to overcome them. So.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of everybody with the same attitude of it continuing on and working well together, right?
It does, and that's fortunate, that the majority of our family wants to have that ag focus, wants to keep the farm there, wants to keep it intact. We all live out here on the farm. I've got family that lives every direction from me, and so we're all here and still involved, and so that's been beneficial as well. So.
Fantastic. So let's talk soybeans. You are currently the president of the Kentucky Soybean Association. So kind of help me and help our listeners understand, how does one even start getting involved in an association like that? I think a lot of people that listen to this for sure are a lot of Farm Bureau members. So whether it's because they paid their insurance policy and that's a piece of it, or whether they go to that office and pay their membership separately, they kind of know how that membership works out and what gets you involved. But Soybean Association, you guys can kind of seek it out and start working with them. So talk to us about what made you get involved, how did you get involved, and why do a leadership role there?
Well, I guess I probably took a different path than a lot of people did. A lot of people are involved just by word of mouth, or, hey, I think you need to get involved in this. I think you'd be great for that. We actually, my wife and I were just we were just starting farming. She found, at that time, it was the DuPont Young Leader Program, now the Corteva Young Leader Program. But she saw that online somewhere and showed it to me and said, hey, I think we'd be great for this. It's a program that couples can do together. So we signed up for that, and really had no idea what we're getting involved in. We just knew that I'm kind of big on working on things that I'm not good at, if that makes sense. I think that's the best way for me to grow, is to focus on areas that I'm not good at, improve those. And leadership, public speaking, that type of thing is an area that I'm horrible at. And so that's kind of what that program focused on. And so that gave me an opportunity to grow in those areas, and then also get involved in the Soybean Association and the promotion board as well. So I didn't seek out to be involved, but once getting involved, I see the value in it and was glad to be involved, built some relationships there, and just it's been great ever since.
I think that's huge. I think a lot of people, when they, it's funny you say that that's the parts you're not good at, because I think some in your group would argue that you do a very good job speaking on behalf of your other farmers. But it's funny, some people say if they're not a good public speaker, they say, well, that's why I farm. I don't have to be up there. That's your job, Farm Bureau lady. That's your job, Soybean Association. So I always think it's so neat when our farmers kind of take that step forward and understand that I can say it till I'm blue in the face, but there's a credibility you guys hold as the farmer that it just means more coming out of your mouth. So I appreciate the self-reflection and knowing that where things need to be worked on, because I think you do a great job in that. So once Debbie and them, they got a hold of you, they didn't let you go, it sounds like, because doing that quick run through the website, I was double checking to make sure you were on the promotion board as well, and you are. So you've gotten to see both facets of that. Kind of explain to listeners what's the differences there.
Yeah, so it's two different organizations, completely separate missions. The Kentucky Soybean Association is able to get involved in, that's your policy organization. So we're trying to influence and watch and affect policy that happens in Frankfort and Washington. We cannot use checkoff dollars for that. So when we go to the elevator, sell a bushel of beans, a small percentage of that is set aside for the checkoff program. None of that money can be used to lobby or affect policy in any kind of way. So that's a separate board, and that is the Kentucky Soybean Promotion Board that takes care of that. So you've got two different entities. They're both working for Kentucky soybean farmers, but just in different ways. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so help people understand, what is a checkoff dollar?
So like I said, when you go to the elevator and you sell a bushel of beans, a small percentage of that is set aside into the checkoff program. part of it is sent to USB on a national level, and part of it is sent to Kentucky Soybean Promotion Board on a state level. So then you've got boards set up that are a collective group of farmers that represent that area either at the state or national level, and they decide what they feel the best way to invest those dollars would be. So a lot of it is spent on research. So when you look at UK's soybean variety trials, those are funded by checkoff dollars, and water quality and new uses and international marketing and a lot of that kind of stuff. So just there's a farmer-led board that decides what direction those funds would best be used and tries to invest those dollars. Like I said, the association is working on policy, but the promotion board is working on the checkoff fund. So.
Yeah. So you've been a part of a lot of different leadership roles. What have you learned? Getting to travel around, getting to talk to farmers, getting to lead groups, to do talks, to see all kinds of places, other farms. What are some of the great things you've learned, and has it really opened your eyes to agriculture? Obviously, you're speaking about one industry, but what has it really done for you to be a part of something like this?
So I think one of the biggest things is I've grown up here on my farm. I know the way we do things. I know the things that work well here. But once you get outside of your own backyard and you start seeing things, you start meeting people both in the U.S., even outside the country, how those same growers are doing things differently in their part of the world, or how those end users are using. I think you just don't understand the magnitude of agriculture and how important it is to everyone's life, not just mine. I mean, I know how it affects me here at home, but just how many people are working throughout the U.S. and the nation to push agriculture products, get them exported. I mean, just the whole machine that is agriculture. It's just kind of mind-boggling at times how far of an expanse it goes, and across countries and Panamax vessels, and just it's kind of mind-blowing at times. The other thing that has been so important for me is the relationships that I've developed throughout. Being able to meet people across the country and across the globe and have those relationships, and being able to bounce ideas off people, and they say, well, this worked here, here, and here. It might work for you. And so just having those relationships has been really important to me as well. So.
Yeah, we're very blessed in Kentucky. We've had a lot of Kentucky producers on these national boards, and I think a couple just got announced even last week on a couple different things. But I think it's already easy. We have great staff with the Soybean Association, and a lot of things going on where it's easy to meet those other producers in other states, whether it's Commodity Classic, whether it's Commodity Conference, different places you're at. But talk about how neat it is to have kind of some of our farmer leaders in those national leadership roles. Do you get a chance to interact with them at some of those meetings, or does that help you meet even more people?
I do, and so being association president, I'm involved in a lot of those national meetings, and so I heard somebody say the other day, once again, Kentucky's punching above our weight, and that may have been at the KFB meeting that I went the other day. It happens at the Soybean Association and the USB as well. Kentucky is a smaller soybean growing state when you look at U.S. nationwide or U.S., but we have the quality of leadership and the quality of people that come out of Kentucky is second to none. We've got an excellent staff. We've got involved farmers, and so we've got a great group of people representing Kentucky and U.S. farmers. And so I think it's just so important that we've got great folks that are pushing U.S. interests, but not Kentucky specific interests at both ASA and USB. I can't say how important that is to have that representation at those levels. So.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to me how many guys we have willing to step up. And I've been at National Cattlemen's Beef Association. I've been at just national conventions, AFBF, where I'll have somebody walk up to me and ask about somebody from Kentucky. And I think it's so wild. It's not even in their commodity. It's not even any of those pieces. They're like, oh, I was in D.C. on a fly-in and the soybean guys were there and I met this one, and this one. Do you know them? And I'm like, well, yeah. Kentucky's a small world in the ag world. So, yeah, we all know each other. But it's so interesting to me to see out-of-state guys know our people. And you're exactly right. Punching above your weight class is a great way to say it. And it probably was. I don't know. That's a tagline, feels like, for us sometimes at Farm Bureau. But it's so true. And I don't know if it's not that we are always the best, but consistently we've got good quality crops and we've got really good quality, above quality people that are bettering themselves. I don't know if there's been a Corteva / DuPont class that there hasn't been a Kentucky young farmer couple in. And I think that means something. We've always got somebody willing to kind of take that next step. And I think that's what builds those leaders, in my opinion.
It is. I mean, and some states kind of struggle to get folks to go to those programs. We often are trying to figure out whether we can send one or two or multiple. Yeah. We've got great candidates. So somehow the Soybean Association has been able to attract some really good leadership. And I think good people are there. And once you get involved, you see that and you see those mentors there and you kind of want to fall in line and do what you can to be a part of that.
The start of the year is coming up, and there's this commodity conference coming up, and I hear you're a part of it. So what is the commodity conference for folks that don't know, and tell a little about your role there and what's going to be going on?
Yeah, so the commodity conference happens in Bowling Green in January every year, and it's basically the meeting where we present to Kentucky farmers to say, hey, here's what we've done throughout the year. So we have a lot of meetings around that. We have our end of year meetings. And so we're able to kind of come together and say, hey, here's what we've been working on. What, as a Kentucky producer, what do you think we need to be working on? And we can kind of interact with the folks that we represent and kind of say, here's what we've been working on and what direction do we need to go in the coming year. So we have those association meetings, and then along with that, we've got all kinds of other educational opportunities. We've got speakers that come in, agronomic speakers. We've got marketing speakers. We've had some on weather, and so just got a lot of information available at that time for folks to come in. So hopefully everybody can find a way to get involved there.
Very good, very good. So this is posting right at the end of the year. What's your New Year's plans here? Do you guys have some fun in your neck of the woods for New Year's?
It's usually just work of some kind, shape, form, or fashion. We've been hauling out seed beans and just a lot of shop work, and so I typically don't do a lot for New Year's. We've got travel plans for Christmas, but New Year's is just usually trying to push through and get some work done before trying to empty out some grain bins in January.
Excellent.
He's saving up all of his energy for commodity conference.
That's what he is.
Sees all of his best friends for conference.
That's exactly right.
No, I think that one's fantastic. And just for any of our crop people that might be listening, if you have never been to commodity conference, I always tell people you can learn just as much in the hallways as you can in those rooms. That trade show is really, really outstanding. And it's funny, it's nobody just significantly special you don't see anywhere else. We're just finally all in the same place. So I always tell them, if you've ever needed to talk about drainage tiles, you want to talk to a new chem rep, you name it, lenders, they're all right there in that hallway. And that is one thing about Bowling Green. It is pretty tight. So you don't have any choice but to say hi to us when we're sitting at our trade show booths on your way in between meetings. But a lot of really good connections and really good things are learned right outside those meeting rooms asking one-on-one questions. So if you have never been, we'll put that link in the show notes so you can kind of register and have a name tag ready for you. But it is a fantastic event. And I'm lucky to be there. I get to go. I always say I run the booth so our guy Taylor Thompson can go hang out with you guys, Adam, at your meetings. But so I just man the freebies.
That's right.
But no, it's a really good time. A lot of learning to be done. So I one of my favorites every year. I think that's probably the best one for all of our crop guys to get together.
It is. There's just so much going on. There's like you said, there's such a a wealth of knowledge in that room there or in the hallways. You can just find anything. If you've got questions, you know, somebody's there that can answer those questions. And like you said, you just get talking to people you don't know, and you're guaranteed to learn something somewhere. So definitely, if you haven't already, go get registered and try to see us in Bowling Green if you can.
And we do give awards out, right? Our yield contest awards are that night.
That's exactly right. So yeah, later on that evening, that's the other thing you talk about in the halls. There's a lot of producers within the state that are growing some fantastic yields, and they will be there. And so sometimes you can catch some of those and say, hey, what did you do? What worked? What didn't work? So you've got all those state record holders there. And that evening we will have an award celebration for those and try to recognize their accomplishments.
It's a pretty good time, Matt. It is the coolest tie you will ever see is those soybean guys wearing their soybean ties. Like, you can tell who's on the board because they've all got their ties on and they look very nice. So, no, it's a good time. Adam, I cannot thank you enough. I know we have jumped around trying to get you in, but you were kind of one of our first on the list, was making sure we got a chance to pub the commodity conference going into January. And we so appreciate all the time. I know with the commodity division, I get to work with Debbie all the time, but Taylor has really gotten to work with you a ton here lately, and we appreciate all the meetings you're able to attend. On behalf of the producers you represent as president of that association, so kudos to the work you do. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you, Adam, and thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our larger podcast, Kentucky Farm Life, and we'll see you next time on Between the Rows.